Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the X-Force Global channel. We got a few updates going on, especially with the price action dropping in and a few failures of what we originally anticipated as the internal local counts, but the overall picture remains and what kind of scenarios we can add on top of what we have already discussed. Now, to quickly recap, we're still working on the idea that this was a larger ABC, or we're working in that bearish WXY double zigzag scenario. But we still want to continue on the idea of building that narrative on how we can find a way that we're going to be continuing to the upside, just due to the fact that we had a pretty secured or protected bottom, and this move out of here was most definitely some kind of impulse breaking out of this trend line, and that is helping us give us a little bit of clues on the overall picture. But now we want to be focusing on how this local structure could be finishing its correction within the following weeks, and we are here to kind of build on what kind of ways we can do it with not ruining the overall looks of the local structures, so that it can help build the overall narrative on how this ABC could be deemed as complete, and we can continue on either as an impulse or even a possible larger structure of a corrective move of a combo of some sort, and I'll be discussing that in a moment as well. So that is what we're working on. We're still working on the idea that this ABC is still some kind of completed structure. So if we move into the local time frames, our original anticipated idea was that we had some kind of impulse move being created. It's just how it was. We couldn't really predict on how this impulsive move was gonna be coming to an end, and it looks like it's coming to an end. There is really no way we can say that the impulse is continuing, especially at this current time that we had this dump, and we are already breaking into all of the previous territories of wave ones. So we definitely want to say that this idea is invalidated in all regards to even the 1-2-1-2s and the 1-2 ideas. So that is kind of what we expected in a way, just due to the fact that we had a lot of overlaps in the structure. But it's nothing to worry, because there are ways that we can find a different way of how to count this. Now, not there, we don't have to be unique or anything. However, we did discuss the idea of a possible flat idea, and this possible flat idea, in my opinion, does not have the right look, and that is something that is kind of looming against us. Even as a bull or a bear, we are still saying that this is a possible 1-2 being in the making, where this impulsive move off the low is that wave 1. But since this move here was short relatively time to the wave B, now there's no invalidation in terms of that, but we're still trying to figure out what could fit into the picture as a better looking structure, because if that doesn't work out, then we have to resort back to the bearish scenario, and I'll be going into that in just a moment. So if we look at this, we can say that this was in wave A, wave B as a larger WXY or an ABC, depending on how you want to count these local internal structures. We can even say that this move here was some kind of expanded flat, and then going up for some kind of impulse of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for wave C. Now, that would complete our wave B. Now, the problem that I have with this one, like I said in the previous video, if you haven't watched it, is that it has well surpassed the 1-2-3-6 and the 1-3-8-2 Fibonacci zone, which is a B pocket expanded zone. And if that B pocket expanded zone is breached, especially with a lot of candles, and it's breaching into even just barely above the 1-6-1-8, that's giving me signals that this may not be some kind of B pocket zone. I mean, there are market inefficiencies, like I've said, and those are things where it's retained to the subjectivity of what Elliottians are seeing in the markets. And there are times where I do accept those kinds of structures for any kind of extended structure, especially for ABCs, where we see quite a bit of ABCs, where C waves is highly extended, and we accept that as not a 1-2-3, but just an ABC of a larger structure. And there are many times in instances where we had accepted those as just inefficiencies within the market. Now, this could be one of those situations where we just have a larger B wave extension. And the reason why we have that in mind is because now it's looking quite impulsive to the downside. So this move is most definitely an impulse. Now, whether this is going to be part of something of a larger 3-way 4-5 down to the downside, whether it's going to be going into the expanded pocket zone again one more time, it's still looking unlikely to me as the corrective structure. So there is one last structure that I do believe is going to be kind of how we're going to look at things. Now, whether you're seeing this as a WXY, it really doesn't matter again. It just depends on how this local structure is going to be playing out. To me, this does have the possibility of being just an ABC because we do have a triangle here, where we have this as wave A, and then A, B, C, D, E into wave B, and then that could be the end, and that will be considered as the running flat scenario. Or we just continue on the idea that this is a 1-2 localized structure and working on a 1-2, 3, 4, 5 of a 3, 4, and then 5, and that should bring us down into another possible running territory or into the past the origin of wave A that will go into at least a 618 Fibonacci zone. And that's going to be the ultimate test of the bull's patience and how, if that level is going to be held or not. But to me, if that happens, this does not look like a flat to me. So this idea to me is kind of just, I'm still monitoring it, but it's not something that I would keep in mind. So something definitely to keep in mind, but to me, it's just something that I would find different opportunities in a different way so that you can transition quickly and most notably risk manage what could be turning into a bear scenario, because those do loom upon us right now. Now, the next idea that I would like to talk about is the possible variation in terms of a leading expanding diagonal idea. Now, this is a very tricky one, just due to the fact that you only could really see these in hindsight, meaning that even if you have a very good local structure, even with 4 subwaves being created, you don't know what's going to be happening. These are pretty rare in nature. However, they're not out of the picture. I do believe that since we've got this protected low, since we've gotten this impulse to the move to the upside, it just still makes me believe that some kind of bottom is in until it isn't. So what can we say from here? Well, we have a possible 1, 2, 3, and then like I said, there's an A, B, C, which takes into account for this impulse that we had, and that'll give us that 3-wave structure for that subwave B. Now, for an expanded flat structure, in order for it to be valid, we have to have wave 5 larger than the previous wave 3. So this has to be a perfect scenario in that sense as well. So if that is the case, then this move here has to be longer than wave 3. And I think at this point where it does meet with the trend line almost, it doesn't have to reach the trend line, is that it will be longer than wave 3 as such. Okay, now wave 3 doesn't have to be longer than wave 1, as wave 1 does not have that requirement anymore. So if we do take into consideration that wave 4 is also larger than wave 2, which has been met now, we can also say that maybe just due to the fact that wave 5 is also possibly in, and we had so many overlapping structures, this has a far better look where we are still creating overlaps, and then we'll still have that larger corrective 1, 2 that hasn't been playing out. Instead of just saying that this is a 1, this is a 2, this removes that notion that maybe that expanded flat idea doesn't even have to play out, or a running flat idea. And we can also mitigate that idea or that risk where that possible 1, 2, or the 1, 2, 3, 6 and that 1, 3, 8, 2 zone doesn't have to be negated. So we remove a lot of the inefficiencies of that scenario by using this idea that there can be a very good possibility of some kind of leading expanding diagonal, and we're still waiting for that larger correction to be happening. And in that case, that'll not only solidify a larger move of a consolidation, that also helps in time that maybe if the longer we correct within this region, that the bear market or that bear scenario to the downside is becoming less likely. So I do think that this is probably the best looking structure with the current price data with all the overlaps that we're seeing. Again, we do have a nice looking ABC structure. We are right now at the time of this video about to retest the 1618 fib extension of this A to the C, which is the most common target that we want to be looking. So we're getting that reaction as we speak. Now, Again, do not be alarmed if this does play out. In a three wave, then we'll be very uh, assured by that this idea being some kind of leading expanding diagonal, meaning that the markets are still heavily trying to find what a wave one is, but at the same time want the markets to continue up while the bears still try to trigger the bulls where they want to see retracements along the way. Now, the bears at this time, even though they're playing these short-term games, it might still, from a short-term perspective and liquidity perspective, that these levels still want to be secured, even if you're a bear. There's just too much risk if you're speaking from a smart money trader. So I do think that this idea has a larger kind of say within the current price data action that we're having within this local structure. So this is something you can take into consideration. Don't worry, I'll be making sure I update the scenario tomorrow, but it's just something to keep in mind with the current price data action. So we got the expanded variation out of the way. Now, what is the current bearish idea? Now, I did discuss the bearish idea in the form of what the line chart is telling us, that maybe we're creating the double zigzag scenario still, where instead we had that AB, we are now working in that WX, and we don't have to solidify that idea as some kind of zigzag, double zigzag, or flat scenario where we hit that 90% retracement. Instead, it's working as a hybrid scenario where the wave this is a wave W, and then we're done finished with the wave X, and then we're working for that wave Y, and that will right there will be where wave A, B, C is going to be coming into play, and that is yet to be determined, but it's something to keep in mind because there is a possibility of an impulse being made, and if that impulse is being made, we'll be easily able to identify if that 5-wave move down is going to be going into some kind of larger 5-wave corrective move into the downside, finishing off that C wave of Y of this larger double zigzag scenario. So that's that scenario of the bear scenario. And now there's one more important scenario that I would like to talk about that is very interesting to me. That could be even a larger corrective scenario that will fake out both the bears and the bulls. So this could be a rational scenario as well. Instead of saying that we're in a wave 3, 4 of some sort, instead, if we're working on a larger combo of some sort and saying that we're in a 1, 2 scenario, we can say that reducing the market inefficiencies was again, we can say that this was still a flat scenario of an idea since it did reach that B minimum pocket zone of that 90%, saying that it is considered a flat. Say that this was the flat of the ABC. That'll create the first larger structure of what the combo is going to be. And if we're able to combine this with even the possibility of that expanded variation, what we can do is we could replace this wave 1, ladies and gentlemen, since that is going to be wave 1, an expanded variation can also lead into the possible A wave. And if this happens, and that works as a 3-wave move, and we get rejected at these tops, if this hybrid scenario of that 1, 2, 3, and we get cut short as a C wave, we can say that this whole scenario, and depending on how long we actually correct, the longer we correct, the better it is for creating a 3-wave looking structure, we could say that this is going for a larger A, B, C, and that'll finish off what is a potential top wave X, and that, ladies and gentlemen, will bring us down for a possible zigzag correction down into wave Y, as wave Y needs to be a zigzag as we have a flat here. Now, in terms of the rules and guidelines, there's something that I think many people are misunderstanding and have to get an understanding for since we're working with so many hybrid scenarios. If we take this idea as a flat, we have to take into consideration of the idea that alternation must be obeyed within waves W and Y. So since this is a flat structure, we have to say that this has to be a zigzag. Now, keeping it very simple, if you are working in a combo of some sort, the idea of alternation also works within corrective structures, which means if you have a zigzag here, you have to have some kind of flat or a triangle for wave Y, okay? So if it's a zigzag structure in the beginning, it has to be a flat at the end or a triangle, okay? So it's going to be a zigzag, zigzag, flat, or it could be a flat triangle, or it could be a flat, flat, or a zigzag and a triangle, like I mentioned. So there's 5 different combinations that you can have for this specific combination, okay? So if I were to write that out, you can pause this video, and I would say that the only ways that we're going to be looking at this specific scenario is based on this is going to be a zigzag of some sort if we're going to say that the wave X is going to be breaching these levels over here. So we're going to say that based on the idea of corrective alternations, we're going to say that the first structure is going to be a flat and then wave X, and then we can say that we have a zigzag at the end, okay? So that is one of our first kind of ways that we can say a flat zigzag. We can also say we have a flat of an X and then of a triangle, because wave Y is the only wave that we can have a triangle, and then we have a possibility of creating a flat X and a flat, because that keeps the ratios involved, keeping it flat structure intact, right? And then we have the zigzag structures. We have a zigzag and a flat possibility, and then we have a zigzag, X, and then a triangle possibility. So those are the 5 different combinations that we can have. Pause this video, go back to the Elliott wave principle, study this, because the Elliott wave principle doesn't really do a great job of explaining it, but it's something that you want to be keeping when you're working in a sideways combo, okay? This is not a double zigzag scenario where we showed in that bearish scenario. Instead, we're working on the idea that this could be a possible flat X and zigzag. So this could be leading, if that expanding diagonal does play out, this could be leading into a wave A, B, and C as just as likely, with the expanded variation where we have that A, B, C being completed, and we replace this idea with a possible, where are you at? I'll just have to redo it, where we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 continuation. So that is something to keep in mind. I think that expanded variation is something at this current time of video is a very deemable product that is going to be working for how this is going to be playing out. Because that's the only way I can draw a diagonal. I think there's a lot of people who are trying to fit in a current diagonal scenario. Maybe it's possible, but I just don't like the idea of working with too tight of a scenario where, we have some kind of diagonal scenario being built here. And just due to the idea if we're going to be obeying whatever Elliott wave theory has been teaching us for the past, few decades, is that you can't have, or it's extremely absolutely rare to have some kind of truncation, not only for an ending diagonal, but as a overall leading diagonal, you cannot have a truncation. So if this is a 1, 2, and this is a 3, and then let alone we're breaking the trend lines, 3, 4, and then this is what we originally also had, possibly could have been a 5 and then come down. That would have been more convincing of a diagonal, where we had a 3 and then a 4 and then a 5 that could have ended the diagonal, but we didn't get that. Instead, we found ourselves in some kind of sideways consolidation. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I think those are the scenarios that I believe is going to be happening. I think for me, the highest scenario for the local structure is, again, going to be that expanded variation. If we do get supported on this 168, again, it doesn't have to. This is just at the current time of the price action, right? If that doesn't happen, then the next last resort that we have is this very irregular looking expanded flat or regular running flat. Again, I don't like this idea. And if this all else fails, which I believe once we do break down even further and we don't get any real bounces, then I'm not going to even think about this idea. I'm going to start thinking about what kind of bearish scenario that we have to be really transitioning into. So those are the current probabilities, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully that was helpful. If you're not following me on social media, please do follow me for daily updates on X, or formerly known as Twitter. Please do follow me there. And then I do also give daily updates on Discord, so please do follow me. If you're interested in joining the Discord, do not hesitate to contact me, which is in the link in the description in the below. Thank you very much. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.